This video is going to cover padding and onsets, and padding is a type of strategy. So what is padding? So padding makes an equation unnecessarily longer. Like, for example, if we have red or yellow minus yellow. Yellow minus yellow is equal to 0, and then red or that just leaves you with red. So this equation is equal to the number of red cards. So basically, this expression here didn't change the stem. And padding is a very strong strategy because it's very quick to learn, and you can use it to get rid of cubes and required and put them in phrases like this. We're going to start off with padding with operations with the same color. So note that when I use X here, it means any set. So that set could be like yellow or red or blue or even universe. So this just represents any set that you can plug into here. So X or union X equals X. So any expression union to itself is that expression. And then X and X or X intersection X is also X. Very simple. So if we had red or red, that would just equal the number of red cards. And that is 5 here. And if we did green minus yellow and green minus yellow, these are the same. So this would be equivalent to just taking green minus yellow. And green minus yellow, if we circle all the green cards, and then we take away the yellow ones, we're left with 4. So this is just a very basic strategy. Anything intersection or union itself is that same thing. So we can also do padding with subtraction. So let's say we took X and we subtracted X. That leaves you with the null set, or nothing, 0 cards. And let's say we had X subtracted by X prime. We're taking away the cards without X from X. If we're taking away the cards without X from X, then we're taking away 0 cards from X because none of the cards without X have X in them. So X minus X prime is just X. Very simple. So if we did blue minus blue, we take all the blue cards and subtract them from all the blue cards, which leaves you with no cards. So that's equal to 0. And if we did green and red minus, in parentheses, green and red prime, since we're subtracting that same expression prime, none of these cards are going to be the same as these cards. So we're not actually subtracting any of these cards from this set here. So we're just left with this original set because we're subtracting nothing. So if we just look at green and red, how many cards have both green and red? 1, 2, 3. So the next type of padding is with universe and null set. And this is where a lot of the padding strategies come into play. The first one here is universe and X. So which cards have both universe and X? Well, that's just the cards with X, since the universe is all 8 of these cards. Down here, we can see universe or X is universe. So what are the cards that have either universe or X? Well, since universe is all of the cards, then this is equal to all of the cards, which is universe. So as you can see, as we're going through these, note the common pattern that when we're padding, we can see the answer inside of this expression here. X is already here. This is just adding extra junk to it to make it longer. Now, if we look at X minus universe, if we're taking away the universe, which is all the cards from X, that's leaving us with nothing. And remember, we can't go into the negatives and onsets. And finally, if we take universe minus X prime, we're taking universe and we're subtracting the cards without X away from the universe. So what are we left with? Only the cards with X. So that leaves us with X. So if we look at null set, it's a little bit different. Nothing and X. The null set, which cards have both the null set and X? Well, none of them do, because the null set refers to 0 cards. If you look at the null set or X, which of the cards have either X or the null set? Well, since the null set refers to nothing, then the only cards that would fulfill this requirement is X. So the answer to this is X. If we take any set of cards, X, and we subtract nothing from it, that's like subtracting 0, we're left with X. And finally, if we take nothing and we subtract X, any set of cards, we're left with nothing because remember, we can't go into the negatives. So we would just subtract that and we'd be left with the null set there. And I'm referring to nothing in the null set. Nothing is the more common term, but null set is the actual term for this. So here's an example, universe and yellow. So let's look at this. Which cards have both universe and yellow? The universe refers to all 8 of these cards, and then yellow are these 3. So which cards have both? Well, just these 3. So the answer is 3. Now if we look at blue or, in parentheses, nothing minus green, well, if you take anything and you subtract that away from nothing, you're going to be left with 0. So blue or the null set is just blue. So the answer to this is the number of blue cards. Blue is a stem, and that is 4. So here's a drill that practices these padding strategies. So I know during a regular game, you're going to have to create these solutions on your own, but try evaluating these ones. Pause the video if you need time. So let's look at the first question here. Yellow or yellow? So which cards have yellow or yellow? Well, the yellow cards do. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So for blue minus blue prime, if we're subtracting the cards that do not have blue from the blue cards, we're subtracting none of the cards away from the blue cards because all the cards without blue don't have blue. So this is just padding. This part is unnecessary. So we're just looking at the blue cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're subtracting cards away from it. These 3, they don't even have blue. And we'd only be subtracting away from these cards, which is why we subtract nothing. So that's 5. But the third question here is universe intersection red. So which cards have both the universe, which is all 8, and the red cards? Well, only the red cards match these criteria. So we look at 1, 2, 3, 4 cards here. And finally, this last question down here may seem a little bit more difficult, but it's actually pretty easy if you break it down. So let's look at the parentheses first. We have the null set subtracting. So anytime we see the null set subtracting anything, we know the answer is going to be 0. We can't go into the negatives, but we're going to stay at 0 here. The null set represents 0. So this all is 0, or the null set. Blue prime union, this null set is just going to leave you with blue prime. That was one of our rules. That's the rule that we look back on the other slides. That was also one of our rules. So this whole expression is equal to blue prime. So how many cards don't have blue? 1, 2, 3. The answer is a piece of cake. All you got to do is just break it down. Well, this is the end of the Introduction to Padding and Onsets lesson. Like the video if you learned something new, and we'll try to incorporate these strategies in a game. Subscribe and turn on notifications to be the first to receive new content. And until next time, see you later.